Today we're gonna talk about the library in Maschine, specifically user library. I'm gonna go over all the things that you can find in the Maschine library, explaining what they all are. So basically these little icons here, it might be confusing as to why are they all there, because in other DAWs it's kind of different. But trust me, it makes sense once you understand what they all do. So the first one here is obviously Maschine projects. Like any other projects in any other DAW, Maschine has its own projects and they are all saved under this category. So if you want to load them, if you have a Maschine Mark III controller or any other Maschine controller for that matter, you can just go here, press browser, and by default it should open this project folder. If not, you just press this button until it comes to the projects folder. So you can use these two buttons to move between them, right? So this first one is projects, and on this right side of the Maschine controller you can just scroll through them, or you can do it in the software here, and once you find the project you want to open, you just double click it. That's simple, right? You understand that. So okay, let's go to the next one. The next part is actually specific to Maschine, and actually all three of these are specific to Maschine. Projects are specific because they are Maschine projects, but these two in particular are specific to Maschine, and they are very, very useful. The reason being, this second one refers to groups. So a group is this thing here. All of these are groups in Maschine, and what you can do is you can load pre-made groups into your Maschine with 16 different sounds basically. That becomes useful when you're working either with drums, whenever you're working with something that has multiple different sounds in it, right? So a drum kit is one example. Another example would be like a contact library with different instruments inside. It's really useful to have groups and to be able to load them, because what this enables you to do is essentially to create your own kits. You switch between user libraries and Maschine libraries by pressing this thing here. When this dude is white, no racism I guess, then you can load your own user library. If he is gray, then you can load the Maschine libraries by default. And you can click this button on the Maschine controller to do the same thing, right? The way to create a group is simple. You just load all of your sounds to your pads, and once you loaded everything, you can just come here on the group and just go and click save as, and it's gonna automatically open the folder where your groups, user groups for the Maschine are. The way to change where your default user libraries are is you go to file, you click preferences, and then once it opens, you can go here to library and click user libraries. And this one here is actually your standard user directory is what it's called, and you can specify this this place. So I have it here, as you can see, on my external hard drive, and I put it into native instrument libraries where all of the libraries for anything are. So everything is on that external hard drive, all the contact libraries and everything. Anything that has to do with groups, with sounds, with projects will be saved in that folder. Okay, so that's how you define that. Yeah, so that means if you want to save your group, you can just come here, click save as, and it's going to save it into that folder, groups under the Maschine, inside the folder native instruments libraries, which is on the external hard drive. So you can just type in here whatever, just make sure that this extension stays the same. So we can type Aftalyfe tutorial, and I can just click save. Obviously I don't have anything loaded to my Maschine here, so it's not gonna save anything, but this is how you would do it, right? And then you just double click it and it would load it, or you can do it with Maschine here. See, it appeared in the list. There is an option that you can save different routings, because by default all of your sounds in a group are connected to your group. If you had a mixer, a group would be like a bus. All 16 sounds would be connected to that group, and then that group would be connected to the master. So every group would be connected to the master, and every sound in a group would be connected to the group. What that enables you to do is, so let's say we want to put a saturator here to saturate all of our drums, right? So we just go here to the group. So again, click plugin, and you can choose here which one you want. click group, click here, add a saturator, and now this saturator will be applied to all of our drums. So if I load another snare, for example, on this thing here, it's gonna apply this saturator as well. And another thing is you can save also patterns. If you click this, it's gonna load and save patterns as well from the groups category here. So that means if you created a nice drum loop and you wanna take that drum loop back from another project or save it for another time, you can do that. You just mark it here. For now, we're just gonna leave the routing on. We could talk more about the routing stuff and everything, but that's the basics. Moving on, the next one is sounds. So just like the groups, these things here, you can also save your sounds. So anything, when you click pad mode, anything inside here is a sound. Every pad is one sound, basically. And a sound is what it is essentially, it's a sample, but it's a sample with all other effects and things attached to it, right? So when you save a sound, you're not only saving a sample, you're also saving everything else that you did in Maschine to manipulate that sample. So let's actually do that to show you what I mean. I want to go all the way to one shots, and I'm gonna get there. Just know that these are your samples here, and I'm just gonna load something in here. So let's find a nice kick, right? So all of this can be set up, and I'm gonna tell you how, but for now let's just focus on the sound. So now we loaded one sample onto this sound, and as you can see, it's a sampler. But let's say I wanna add saturation to it, right? I added a saturator to make this kick really pump. So now instead of every time I wanna create a kick like this, going in there and finding a sample, dropping it down, and then finding here another, you can basically add like 5 effects and then save them all together. So let's actually do that as well. Let's put a reverb on the kick. Not that you would necessarily do it. Let's just do it this time. So now we have a really nice kick with a really nice reverb, and let's say we like that and we want to use that like in another project. What you would do is you would go here again, click right on this, and just click save as, and now it by default it opens the same library that we specified in our preferences folder, right? So let's say we want to call this a really cool kick, and then we save it. And now what you can do is you can click another sound here, go to your browser. Let's get out of this. Let's go back to sounds here, and let's click user, and there it is. A really cool kick is indeed in the list. So that means that you can apply effects and save your sounds with those effects. So it essentially enables you to create much more complex sounds. That's it. I guess that describes it. So you can save them and load them as you want, or you can use sounds that native instruments have provided inside their expansions right from there, and that means they're gonna load with the effects already on them. Just know that sounds are things that you use in Maschine when you want to use the preloaded effects and things like that on them. And also every sound has a couple of things that you can change about it. So when we go here to the sampler, or you can just click here, when we go to the sampler here, and when you look at your Maschine, there are a couple of things that you can change inside. So all of this in here will be also saved with the sound when you click here and save as. So anything you change here, so for example, you can put this sample in reverse and then it's gonna be loaded in reverse. You can do a lot of things. The next one is instruments. In here, you can actually load any NKS compatible plugin. That just means that all of their presets for those plugins will be pre-mapped to your machine. And for example, you will be able to filter the sounds by all of these things here. So you can filter them by drums, you can look for piano, for percussion, for different things like that, okay? So, and it only works with NKS compatible plugins. So every time you see a plugin is NKS compatible, that just means it's gonna appear in your machine and it's gonna have an image attached to it, as well as all of these filtering stuff here, okay? So for example, one really popular plugin, or actually a library for contact would be exhale. From output, it's not a native instruments, no pun intended, plugin, but it's actually a plugin that's really popular and it's NKS compatible. Another one is Ambition here. But yeah, this is where you load instruments. And if you click your user presets, this is where you can load some of your presets that you saved from your session. Hold on, let me show you. Let's click sound 2. So for example, let's say you want to open Serum. Let's say that we want to load a sample here and we want this sample to be available via Maschine, right? So let's choose this one, whatever this is. Sounds dope enough. Let's say we want to save that. You go here and you click Save As. And it's gonna ask you where you wanna save it, and you just give it a name here. So let's say a really cool pad or whatever, you know. Save it, and now it's appearing here under your, when you click browser and you go to your user category of your instruments, not only is it gonna load this preset here, it's also gonna add the instrument category here. So for example, here we have now Serum, and we also have this preset from Serum here. So whenever you want to save a certain preset, unfortunately I didn't find a way to save those presets in bulk. You can only save them one by one. I guess you could make a library out of those, but you would have to save it one by one. I don't know if anyone made like a thing that would enable you to export them in bulk. The next one is effects, and here you can load presets for effects basically. So all of these plugins here, which I have to be honest, I didn't use these much, but if you're kind of stuck in a place where you don't know what you want to do with your sound, or it doesn't really sound that interesting, you can go here and actually play with those here. So for example, Guitar Rig is a really nice one. It's usually made for guitars, but it works really well on lead sounds and maybe even vocals and things like that. The next one is loops, and this one was, if I'm not mistaken, this one was added recently to Maschine. There was no loops section before. So considering that it's still new, there is one thing about Maschine that I hope they're gonna implement really soon. So when you're loading, when you're actually not loading, importing samples into your library, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. When you're importing sounds or samples into your library, there is no way to specify that something is a loop while you are importing it. You have to do it after you imported it, because normally everything goes here into this one-shot category, and then you have to find your loops and mark them as loops, and they will be saved here, right? What that means, the difference between loops and one-shots, is that when you scroll through these loops, they will actually sync to your project, so you can actually hear how they sound in real time, right? So you just go through them here, and they will sync with whatever your BPM is here. So they can be really useful, and you can create a folder structure and filter them just like we did with the other stuff in Maschine. That's why Maschine is actually really cool, because you can quickly find whatever you need. It's like, do you need an 808? Do you need an ambience? Do you need bass loops, like bongo loops, string loops? And you can actually specify these by yourself. I'm gonna show you how to do that as well. But let's go to the last one, and here we have one-shot. So one-shots, it's really self-explanatory. These are what is considered samples, like really small pieces that you can mix and match and then do a lot of things with them, put some effects on it, then save it as sounds to use them later, do all kinds of crazy things. In a nutshell, let's just go over them. So we have projects that everything that you do inside Maschine, you load them here. You have groups when you want to use a kit, or you want to use multiple sounds that complement each other, that sound kind of the same, so like percussions, or I don't know, whatever it is that you can group into 16 similar sounds would go into a group, right? Next one is sounds. So sounds basically samples with effects on them, processed, defined, if you will. When we go to instruments, here you have either NKS ready, when you go here, either NKS ready presets, or you have your own presets that you saved like we showed you. So here basically, and click save as, and then you save it. This is especially useful for the instruments that are not NKS compatible. So you can just save them and access them fast when you have a really cool preset. That's probably what I'm gonna do instead of like exporting all presets there. Maybe just go through your plugin and find presets that you really like and just save them here, and you have a quick access to them with no clutter basically. So it's a really smooth, efficient workflow. You can also save your own effects just like you did with the, so for example, if we load something here, I don't know, let's load something that doesn't have, that is not NKS compatible. Let's put this Quadrovox, why not? So whatever. So we go here, we click save as, you type in, it appears here, simple things. Next one is loops. They sync to the BPM of your project for quick listening to them. And the last one is one-shots, essentially your one-shot samples. So the way you import all of your things in here is there are two ways actually to do that. You can go in here to preferences, and you can specify where we had this library thing. You can specify, click here on add and find something and add it this way. This is something I would not recommend because you are losing a very valuable thing, and that is specifying all the tags that are important for your files. So what I recommend to do is go here to files, find your hard drive with your samples, and this is a structure that you can feel free to copy. So I have my external hard drive here, and inside it I have a library that I called my library. You can call it whatever you want, and inside this library is basically everything that I would need for any particular session, right? So you have your presets for your plugins, you have your one-shots, you have MIDI data, you have loops, you have things that you can chop, so samples and stuff like that. And here is just the kit that I was working on. So I have already all of these one-shots. I have them loaded inside my one-shot category here in the end. So you have 808 one-shots, bass one-shots, brass hits one-shots, drum and percussion. And if we go here, some of these are double because I specified that some of them had a different vendor, which is something I'm not gonna do in the future because I want them to be in, all should be in one particular folder, if you will. If you want to add something from your files, you go here and you click on it, and then you click import. Obviously I'm not gonna do that now because it's saying I have a different location, but let's find another. Okay, so we have some samples here that I didn't load in. So let's say we want to load some, yeah, sure, let's load some loops here. And let's say they are melody loops. Okay, let's click this melody loops, let's click import, and now it's gonna show you this little screen here. And what bugs me is that in this screen you cannot define that these are now melody loops. It's gonna import them as one-shots. So I really hope they fix it because it would be easier. You even have a category here that says loops, but unfortunately it doesn't change that the program is gonna consider it and put it into one-shot category. So, but you can like put different categories yourself. You just press this plus button here and then you can type whatever. And just say enter, and you can just specify it as whatever, and you can even import subcategory into that. So whichever, and you can mark all of these samples by that, and also you can mark them as characters, and when you press OK it's gonna load them. And one more thing that it would do is if there were any folders inside the folder you were importing, they would appear here. So for example, if you look here in my library, when I go to my drum and percussion one-shot library, the second button chooses which imported folder I want to choose sounds from, and the button next to it, so this third one, actually chooses the subfolder inside that subfolder. So for example, if you have a drum folder, you can put all of your drums in here, and then you can choose rides, snares directly from here, right? And even if you had a subfolder for those, so for example, you might want to make hats or a cymbal folder and then put hi-hats, open hi-hats, things like that. And you can even have a third subcategory under those and then choose it with this knob here. I didn't really need it, so I didn't do it, but just so you know that you are able to do that as well. That's it. I don't want to drag this really longer than it should be. I hope I helped you understand how the library in Maschine works, and I plan on doing more Maschine tutorials in the next weeks, just because I found that there are not a lot of Maschine tutorials on YouTube and generally online. Some things are not really well explained. I had to really dig through the manual and find things in other ways. So that means I'm gonna make more tutorials. I've been using Maschine for over a year now, so I think I kind of understand how it works. Comment what you want me to talk about, because there is a lot of things that we can cover here. So thank you guys for watching, and see you next week in another video.